Welcome to another edition of the Willie Bragg Show. I'm glad to see you all back again. I want to make a quick apology. If I have it scheduled at a certain time and I change it, is because things are coming up. So I do apologize in advance. I am going to try to work on having a regular schedule for my live stream. So the one schedule you can depend on is Braglands at 5 p.m. every Friday afternoon. But otherwise, I'm going to try to work on the other streams that I do here and make it more punctual, shall I say. So a big shout out to Miguel. How are you? Daniel's Barry Sports highlights. How are you? And Grapentine or Grapentine. How are you? So I guess with no further ado, let's get started to what we need to talk about. Alexi Navalny and the crocodile tears of the United States and overall the West over his departure and the supposed tracing of his death to Russia. I don't want to make this sound like I'm like cheerleading Putin or cheerleading Russia. It has nothing to do with my personal take on the Russian-Ukraine war, but but the unnecessary vilification of people of doing things that more likely they're not guilty of. Remember Saddam Hussein? They claimed Saddam Hussein was in partnership with Osama bin Laden, and any moderately educated person will realize how stupid that is. Because Osama bin Laden was a fundamentalist, whereas Saddam Hussein was basically the equivalent of the Christian that goes to church on Sunday and who is otherwise secular. So and the same thing can be said in relation to the what's going on with Russia. They will lie to us. They lied to us about Iraq. They lied to us about Panama. They lied to us about Vietnam. They will lie to us. Our government will lie. Gulf of Tonkin. They will lie to us, and never forget that. Never forget that. So let's talk about Alexei Navalny for a moment. So, this cat, Alexei Navalny, who just recently died, and let me get his. There we go. And they're making a hero out of this guy. They're basically saying that he's some sort of a liberal human rights activist in Russia, and he's been put on a pedestal by the West. And I found out otherwise, listening to Glenn Greenwald, his take on it. And I'll go ahead and play you Glenn Greenwald's video on what you need to know about Alexei Navalny. So give me a moment here. We will get that we'll get that started underway. Let me get it on here. Hold on a second. But getting back to what I was saying, he's not the angel that they try to paint him out to be. And you always have to question anything that our anything related to foreign policy. I would say anything related, period. You have to go and take it all with a grain of salt. Hold on a second. For some reason, the screen is getting tiny, but we'll go ahead and play it, and it'll do what it's supposed to do. Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay.
It'd be one thing if Alexei Navalny were some sort of gigantic figure in Russia. The only reason you know the name Alexei Navalny is because the West has turned him into this mythological figure. There was a documentary made about him. It won the Academy Award for Best Documentary in 2022. All of Hollywood stood and cheered for this documentary about the hero Navalny. In Russia, he's a minuscule figure. He's not some giant of the Russian political stage. In Russia, he's a minuscule figure. He's not some giant of the Russian political stage. He is useful to the West for propagandistic purposes, and that is why you have this incredibly inflated imagery of what he is. Here's Reuters on February 21st of 2018. Putin nemesis Navalny barred from the election, tries political siege. Remember when the proof of Russia's totalitarianism was that the opposition leader was barred from the ballot and then imprisoned? Isn't that a situation similar to what we have in the United States? Isn't it the case that the primary political opponent of the current government in Washington is in the process of being stricken from the ballot as a result of judges and Democratic Party leaders bringing cases to have them struck from the ballot, and is in the process of being criminally prosecuted by Democratic partisan prosecutors like Fani Willis in Georgia and Alvin Bragg in New York and the Obama DOJ? Why is it that when we hear that Russia is banning from the ballot the primary political opponent of Vladimir Putin and then trying to imprison him, we make one conclusion, but then when we hear in the United States that the exact same thing is happening, but an actual significant political figure, not like Navalny, but Donald Trump, who was actually the president already, narrowly lost in 2020, is leading almost every up for 2024. When he is struck from ballots, when he is threatened with in prison, a completely different narrative about that is presented, even though they're the same acts. And I know a lot of people just intuitively believe this is what propaganda does, this is what tribalism does, is that we just inherently believe that when it seems like the two things are the same, the fact that one is happening in the United States and the other is happening in Russia means they're completely different. Question, though, whether or not that's what you believe because you're an American, because you were born in the United States, because you've been told from childhood that that's how you should see the world. Here is Reuters. Now, this is not RT. This is not Sputnik. This is not Tucker Carlson, whoever you want to dismiss as some sort of pro-Russian source. This is Reuters in 2018, which said the following, quote, opinion polls put Navalny's support at less than 2%. And many Russians who still get much of their news from state TV say they do not even know who he is.
Basically, what Glenn Greenwald's saying is that he is an obscure figure in Russia. That Alexi Navalny is an obscure figure, and the West is just propping him up to make him bigger than he is. So, and just of course. Again, when I found this out, I knew how the media was going to spend this, and I knew how American politicians would spend this. Okay, Glenn. And there's more to this.
He's incredibly more famous and more notable and more popular in Western political capitals than he is in Russia. The idea that he's a threat to Vladimir Putin in any way is laughable. Let's try and remember as well a couple of things about who Alexei Navalny is, the new hero of Western liberals. From Yahoo News in February of this year, actually yesterday, Alexei Navalny's, quote, far-right racist past brought back in spotlight after Putin critics' death. As world leaders pay tribute to Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, some have drawn attention to some inconvenient aspects of his past. Really, what's inconvenient? Quote, as Western politicians pay their respects, some more uncomfortable aspects of Navalny's career have been brought back to the surface. Quote, Navalny took part in the Russian March, an annual demonstration that draws ultranationalists, including some who adopt swastika-like symbols. Oh my, that is uncomfortable. Quote, he has never apologized for his earlier xenophobic videos or his decision to attend the Russian March. Rahman appeared to be referring to a notorious video from 2007 in which Navalny appears to compare Muslim immigrants in Russia to cockroaches as he advocated for gun ownership. In another video, he is dressed as a dentist and appears to compare migrants in Moscow to tooth cavities, Radio Free Europe reports. He says, quote, "I recommend full sanitization. Everything in our way should be carefully but decisively removed through deportation." Shortly before releasing both clips, Navalny was expelled by the liberal Yabloko party over his, quote, nationalist activities, having participated in the Russian March, an annual rally associated with ultranationalist far-right groups chanting slogans such as "Russia for ethnic Russians." Now, anyone in the United States who has a past like that, who called immigrants cockroaches, who advocated gun control, as handing out guns as a way to exterminate them, as cockroaches should be exterminated, who attended an actual neo-Nazi march, I don't think they would be described as having an inconvenient or uncomfortable past. And yet it is amazing, just like we find in Ukraine, with all the neo-Nazi militias in Ukraine that the American liberals love and want to arm, that if you're somebody who doesn't love the Democratic Party in the United States, you will get called a Nazi and a fascist and a white nationalist. And American liberals and Western liberals try to have you barred from the internet and fired from your job and basically expelled from decent society in every way.
And he's correct about that. And the thing about it is, and I have always had a theory about that, and that basically was that the Democrats and the liberals of today are a product of the Reagan era, and this is why I've argued that Joe Biden is the 11th term of the Reagan presidency, because this is a sort of madness. I know it doesn't sound like that all this cancel culture was existing in the 80s and all that, but you know what? They didn't have the internet back then. They did not. I mean, very few people had the internet. Let me put it that way, a very minuscule few. I didn't even know what an internet was until 1994. So that tells you how far behind, most Americans are in relation to that. But yeah, he was no angel. He was not an angel. And I want you to compare and contrast that with two other people. And so we'll start with Gonzalo Lira, who's a Chilean journalist who was an American citizen that lived in the Ukraine. And you got to understand. And I just found out something about Gonzalo Lira. I wasn't aware. I should have been aware. I will tell you. I will tell you now that he was on the Ukraine kill list. And so hold on a second here. And kind of like Henry Kissinger, they may not have been directly responsible, but as far as they were concerned, mission was accomplished. So Myra Barrett's Ukraine. Hold on a second here. All right, let's get everything settled. Yeah, we got it settled in. Give me a moment here. Ukrainian Myra Barrett's kill list claims another assassination, the torture and murder of American journalist Gonzalo Lira. So there you have it, from February 3rd, 2024 on the Global Research website. All Global Research articles can be read in 51 languages by advocating, translating, what's up, sorry. Okay. Though the media outlets have made any mentions of this atrocity other than defamatory remarks about the victim during his January 24 press conference, Russian Ambassador Sergei Lavrov spoke of the torture and murder of American Chilean journalist Gonzalo Lira in a Ukrainian prison after an extended imprisonment. Lira, who had lived in the Ukraine for many years, reported that of the Zelensky regime's gross violation of human rights and violations of international law, exposed the vast government corruption and permeation by neo-Nazis who had viciously attacked the Donbass region since the U.S. orchestrated a putsch of 2014. So, yeah, and he died in the Ukrainian prison. And there they are, the scumbags that run the kill list. The scumbags that runs that kill list, Myra Barretts, are claiming another victim. He was considered liquidated. Henry Kissinger was considered, what was it? Deceased. That was printed on the kill list. Yeah, so no fan of Henry Kissinger. I was telling somebody online today that kill list has a broad ideology of people today that they dislike. Everyone from Henry Kissinger on the right, all the way, and Viktor Orban of Hungary, who is also a horrible person. Various other types. Tucker Carlson's on the kill list. Elon Musk is on the kill list. Don't like these people, okay? But they shouldn't be on a kill list. Nobody should be on any kill list. And then Gerhard Schroeder, who's as centrist as milquetoast as somebody could be on the European continent, the former German chancellor, is on the kill list. Then you have various, Bashir al-Assad of Syria is on the kill list. You have basically people like you have journalists in the United States and on the kill list like Aaron Mattei and Jimmy Dore. People like Chris Hedges is on the kill list. Roger Waters of Pink Floyd's on the kill list. Scott Ritter's on the kill list. You name it. I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on. So. All these people who are on the kill list because they're not particularly keen on the U.S. NATO proxy war in the Ukraine, and even the people on the right that's critical of U.S. NATO war in the Ukraine, I would say a stop clock gets the right time twice a day in that regard. So and so. Gonzalo Lira is another person, and where's the U.S. on Gonzalo Lira? Crickets. Now, this is from about a month ago on the Jimmy Dore show. Keaton Weiss and Russell Doppler filled in for Jimmy Dore when he's on the road on tour. So I'll go play you a segment right now and their take on things. So give me a moment here.
Really confusing because I thought we were supporting a democratic country and fighting to preserve their freedoms against the autocratic Russian onslaught. This is topsy-turvy. I've heard Zelensky has shut down the press. He's shut down political parties. He's fielding Nazi battalions. He's putting pedophiles and murderers in the front lines. It's very strange. It doesn't sound like, it sounds like at best they're no better than what we claim Russia is. So why are we supporting them?
Yeah, well, we had Danny Haifong on earlier in this live stream, and he mentioned, in relation to the Yemeni uprising, he was very sort of bullish on their ability to prevail because he said you can't kill an idea, right? And that's a phrase that we like to use here in the West to sort of validate our own conquest. Joe Biden said that very thing almost to the word in that whisper scream speech that he gave on the January 6th anniversary. That weekend, whatever it was, he said, we're the only country in history that's built on an idea. Okay, first of all, that's not true. Second, what idea? What's the idea? What country built on what worthwhile idea would just allow this to happen? And this is an egregious example that happened today. What country sits by and lets 100+ journalists in Gaza be murdered? Right. What country sits by and watches as Julian Assange gets tortured to death? His hearing is coming up in just over a month. Do you hear any opinion expressed on that?
Oh,
from anybody on TV? No. So what exactly is the idea that we represent? Nobody can really name it, which to Danny's point is probably why we lose more than we win. Because maybe you can't kill an idea, and maybe we don't have an idea. At this point, the ethos of this country and the West more broadly, but especially this country, is might for might's sake.
Right.
Money for
Might
money's
makes
sake,
right.
power for power's
Yeah.
sake. And that's it. And it's hard to rally a population around that, especially when economic conditions degrade to the point where the people here don't even feel like they're getting anything out of it.
Yeah, it's especially doing what we do, being in a space like this, it's relatable, right? Like, imagine that you went to cover Ukraine. We know people who have covered Ukraine who have come back. And this poor guy never came back, man. They grabbed him, they arrested him. The U.S. did nothing about it. And that really does demonstrate, as Lira's poor father expressed, government did nothing for him. You're telling me one phone call from Biden would not have had this guy on a plane back to the United States?
Yeah, obviously.
That's your government. That's your
Biden,
government.
One call from Matt Gaetz. I mean, any of these people holding up the funding,
Right.
man. Anybody who has the power to sign a check, whether it's a congressperson, a block of congress people, or the commander-in-chief himself, anybody applied a modicum of pressure and he'd have been home.
Yeah, your government is a criminal regime that does not give a shit about you. All the do-goody good American rights and freedoms, it's bullshit. And this proves it. There's an American citizen they let be tortured to death in jail by an autocratic regime calling itself a democracy.
Come see us do a live stand-up show. We'll be in Venice, California, Palmdale, California.
that was from about a month ago. Anyway, yeah, that's basically, I mean, what Due Dissidents, I can brag, friends of the show, said as a substitute for Jimmy Dore, said, about our government. I mean, they just allow Gonzalo Lira to allow the Ukraine to kill them. Now, if Gonzalo Lira lived in Russia and that would have happened to him in Russia, you never hear the end of it from the mainstream. They'd be giving him the lip service that they're giving to Alexi Navalny. Maybe even less, because let's face it, it looks like Alexi Navalny was a right-wing asshole. So of course they're going to go praise him to the sky. So so basically what I'm saying is that we have a foreign policy whose priorities are extremely screwed up, and the Russia-Ukraine war is the latest reiteration of it. But we'd be remiss if we don't talk about the classics, because and I should address them more respectfully than just saying it that way. But Julian Assange, look what the U.S. is doing to Julian Assange. And I mean, and speaking of due dissidents, they were Russell was in London to protest against the extradition of Julian Assange, and they're having the hearings and all of that over there. So there's been protests this past weekend in London, and how sad is it that you have people overseas arguing for free speech and a free press, but it's disappearing slowly in this country and overtly in this country, and there's a lot of people that don't say jack shit about it. And look what's happening to a journalist, a man that was being put in prison for exercising his right as a journalist under the Espionage Act of 1917, which should be repealed. And that's probably one of the few things Robert F. Kennedy's talking about that I would agree with. There's very little I agree with Robert F. Kennedy about these days, but repealing the Espionage Act of 1917 would be one of them. a very base thing to do. It is well when you think about it. The Espionage Act of 1917 is why the American Civil Liberties Union, in its glory days, existed. They're not what they used to be, but all the good they have done over the past century, they were birthed out of their reaction to the Espionage Act of 1917. To a little history right there for everyone. But I would be remiss to not play a classic from Turncoat Don when it comes to Julian Assange, because I think it's a no-brainer that Julian Assange ought to be freed right now, and I think that pretty much my audience would be in agreement. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play that video. And hold on a second here. What in the world? Okay, hold on a second. Let me go ahead and backtrack that. And if y'all haven't heard of Turncoat Don, you should check them out. So let me go ahead and play that. Since it gets a chance.
Well, Julian faces a potential sentence in the United States of 175 years for doing journalistic work, for receiving information from a source and publishing it. And it was in the public interest. It was about US war crimes in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he revealed tens of thousands of civilian deaths that had not been acknowledged before. WikiLeaks did actually redact all of those publications. In fact, it was in cooperation with those newspapers. They told WikiLeaks what had to be redacted, and then WikiLeaks published it redacted. Julian did, in fact, take every precaution to redact any names that could be at risk. Ambassador Bolton is kind of the ideological nemesis of Julian. He has, during his time for the Bush administration and later the Trump administration, sought to undermine the international legal system, ensure that the US is not under the International Criminal Court's jurisdiction. And if it was, Mr. Bolton might, in fact, be prosecuted under the ICC. He was one of the chief cheerleaders of the Iraq War, which Julian then exposed through these leaks. So he has a conflict of interest here. Well, he cannot get a fair trial in America because he is being prosecuted under the Espionage Act. And he cannot bring a public interest defense. He cannot say, I published this information because it was in the public interest, precisely because it is under the Espionage Act. And it is the first time that a publisher has ever been prosecuted under this act. Something that constitutional lawyers in the United States have been warning could happen for the past 50 years. And the New York Times and the Washington Post say this prosecution strikes at the heart of the First Amendment.
Now get back to the stands before I shave off half your mustache and shove it up your left nostril.
And if you ever get a chance, if I get a moment, I'll add Turncoat Don to the link right there, because he always provides a humorous take and his take on John Bolton, a war criminal who's allowed to walk free, but Julian Assange is in prison. You see where I'm going with this? Where is the U.S. clarity, the moral clarity of the United States when it comes to this? Where is the moral clarity? The moral clarity of the United States when they're cheerleading a virtual Nazi in Russia, whereby a supposedly big old mean Vladimir Putin killed him, supposedly. But, they look the other way with the death of Gonzalo Lira in the Ukraine. And look what we're doing. Look what we're doing to Julian Assange right now in the United States. I mean, well, he's in Belmarsh prison in the UK, but you know what I mean. So look what we're doing to Julian Assange. And where is the justice? I like to know where the hell is the justice, because I certainly don't see any justice going on. And for the record, if it's true that Russia, if it's true that Russia eliminated Alexei Navalny, I would be opposed to that as well. I oppose any government eliminating other people. And I don't care where it is in the world. I don't care what part of the world is happening. It's just that's an act of evil right there. And I believe in being consistent when it comes to human rights. So we have a couple other people here on the chat line to drop in. I'll say hello to everyone. Snipe Hunter, how are you doing? And we have PHX Cisco. How are you doing? As per usual, Glenn has the most sane take. I always like what he had to say about most matters. I can think of one or two issues where I disagree with Glenn Greenwald, but overall, I think he's based. Dr. Nick, hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Nick. Yeah, stop clock gets the right time. Viktor Orban is on the kill list. I don't like Viktor Orban. He's hard right, but should he be on the kill list? No, he shouldn't be. Cape Socialist. Hey, how are you doing from across the pond there? How are you doing today? I am kind of okay. Unfortunately, I have to go to work tonight very shortly, but I just want to say hello to everyone. And Warren, how are you doing, my friend? I'm doing good. Glad to see you here. And we have here Kim. Those in charge have no moral clarity, and they never will. It's up to us to change and take control. And that is very true, folks. That is very true. So anyway, I will try to do a live stream tomorrow, and I'm going to try to have a consistent schedule. Don't hold me to it, but I'm going to try. And of course, Braglands on Saturday as per usual. And so you got to get back to that stripper pole. I tell you, I don't know if anybody wants to see me and I dress up as a stripper, stripping down rather. Yeah, good to see you, dude. Yeah, likewise. So see, I want to see. Yeah, I'm afraid. I can't do it. So. Anyway, if you all like what you heard, please press like and comment any ways you disagree with what I have to say. Feel free to share the content on this channel. As a First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it, because we're the muckrakers of our time. Subscribe to this channel here on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch and Twitter, Facebook, Rumble. You know the deal. And also and subscribe to Braglands if you can. We're trying to grow that channel as well. To always reject corporate media, please do so. And remember, as I always like to say at the end, free Julian Assange, free Palestine, free healthcare for all, and of course, free speech. Y'all take care. I will talk to you all soon. Bye-bye.